Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time and day to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing an EDH Updates video. Also, if I look a little bit different, I actually got a haircut and I cut off about like 14 or so inches off of my hair. I donated it, actually. Paul and I donated it together, so if I look a little bit different, that's why. But yeah, today I wanted to do an EDH Updates video, and I feel like the last time I did this was, oh my gosh, it was a long time ago. I want to say it was like a year ago or something like that. Maybe I did them in October. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely been a minute. And I was really ready to do one of these videos because I have a couple of cool, exciting things that I wanted to chat with you guys about. And if you're new to my channel and you don't know what these EDH updates are, basically what I do is I kind of do like an overview of like if I'm going to make any changes in any of my commander decks, and or if I'm going to be building anything new, and kind of talking about a couple of projects. So kind of the first thing I actually want to talk about, I'm going to talk about a couple of different decks in this video, but the first thing I kind of want to do is just talk about, as like a kind of overview, I would say something that I'm interested in doing in all of my commander decks is kind of looking at my mana rocks and my mana acceleration and my mana base, and kind of looking at like those three things and seeing like what are ways that I can kind of like make bits and improvements in my decks. Now obviously there's some that don't really need it, and one of my most powerful decks is my Avacyn Angel of Hope deck. It is board wipe tribal, and it is also Angel tribal, mono white Angel tribal, and that is definitely like a really powerful deck. It's one of my best. And the second one that I would say is my Tasigur Graveyard Recursion commander deck, which is super fun, one of my favorites. And then I have Omnath Locus of Rage, and which is basically just like elemental land things. And I would say like those are definitely my top three, and I would say I'm really happy with the way that those decks perform. I do want to get an Ancient Tomb for no, I don't think I need it in Omnath or Tasigur, but I would like to get one for Angels because I think that would be really helpful. But I would say one thing is I feel like I have those three decks, but I feel like a lot of my other decks are more like middle of the line of the where in terms of power level they fall. And I just want to be really clear. I love all of my commander decks. Like if I didn't, I would take them apart. And I'm someone who I like to have a mix of different power levels in my commander decks. And that's like a piece that I think some people don't realize when they're building commander decks is it's okay if you're someone who plays more competitive EDH, like it's okay to have a deck that's not like the same level. It's okay because that way when you're sitting down with people and who maybe you might not know, and you're like, okay, like what's the power level we're going for? Are we going kind of low? Are we going kind of mid? Are we going kind of like high? Like, you know, some people give numbers of things. Like I think that's incredibly beneficial, and I love having a variety of decks, but I kind of feel like I'm at the place where I kind of want to make all my decks just like a little bit more powerful. And I'm not talking about those three, but I'm talking about like my other ones. So just kind of like reevaluating and thinking through like what I want to do and what I want those decks to look like just to be a little bit better. And that's kind of like where I'm at with all of them as a whole. And like a card that I just came to my head was like Ancient Tomb, for example. I think that would be a card that would really go like, you know, really push me over the edge. And I would say, I think in terms of what I'm building and projects that I'm looking at, I would say I'd probably want about 4 or 5 decks that are on that level of Tasigur, Omnath, and Avacyn, because in my opinion, I think those are the 3 most powerful decks that I own personally. And I would like to have 1 or 2 more decks that are at that level. Now, I don't quite know if I want to make one of my current decks really, really powerful, or if I want to start a new project with the intention of making it incredibly powerful, which I think kind of segues into my first point, which is to talk about Reek. And you guys have been asking so much, Tracy, can we please see your Riku deck tech? Can we please see it? And yes, but not now. Basically what I did yesterday is Paul and I had actually sat down with the deck, and we had pulled out about 10 cards or so. It might have even been more. And I wanted to up the mana acceleration in that deck, so that's one of the things that I did. And I just put in a couple of more things. Like I found I didn't have like, I don't even remember what else I put in, but like I lowered the curve a little bit, and I think that's something that I was also like trying to do, is I did that and added those mana rocks and those acceleration and whatnot. And so I'm pretty happy with that, but the deck still needs a lot more testing before I do it, because guys, like the deck is like really silly and it's just not really trying to take itself seriously. Like it runs like Biovisionary. Like I'm not trying to do like the thing is, okay, I shouldn't say I'm not trying to do powerful things, because like I know Biovisionary like is a really silly card, but like it is like a legitimate win condition, and I can actually get that off like pretty easily in the deck. Like I can win definitely via that. I do also have the Splinter Twin combo in there, so like it's definitely like, and I also draw like a ton of cards, so it's definitely like it has this balance of like it can be really powerful, but it can also like not be powerful. Does that make sense? So I think it's just kind of like an interesting sort of balance that I have with that deck. I don't really know what I want the deck to look like 100% yet. I'm fairly confident of it. So to answer your questions, there is going to be a deck tech. I do just need to play test it a ton more and like have like a 4-player game, and like with 3 opponents where I can really see what this is going to look like, because I feel like the times that I've played it, it's been a little bit weird, and I just haven't had like a good match where it's like I have 3 opponents and myself, and here I am just like making clones of things. Like I haven't had that experience yet. So it's coming. You just got to be a little bit patient with me. So yeah, that's Riku. Next, I want to jump into another project that I'm actually really excited about, which is Rain, Angel of Rebirth. And I remember we had gotten a Rain in, this had come out, it was like the Buy a Box promo in something, not like she's very expensive, like I could have picked her up. And I remember getting her, and I think even remember before like seeing her, I was like, oh, she'd be like a really cool project, because I feel like that Naya color combination is a little bit different for me. It also makes me play red, which you guys know, I'm not a red mage. And I would say like the really cool thing that I've found about Arene, and I also did this yesterday, well, before I tell that story, yesterday Paul and I had sat down and we went through our box and we went through our binders and we pulled out more cards, because I had about like 20 or so cards set aside, maybe like 25 cards set aside for Reen, and I just kind of like went through and like we really like solidified it. I went on EDH Rec, which I love that website, and basically looked at like all of like the people who built this deck on there, like what are popular cards amongst them. And the really cool thing I would say about this deck is that I found myself playing cards that I don't normally play, which is really cool to me. So like for example, typically in like green, I'd run cards like Eternal Witness and like things like that. And I found myself instead being like, I'm running multicolored cards because that's the point of the deck. And so it really pushed me to look at like multicolored Naya cards or multicolored like red-white cards, for example. And so the deck just basically runs just multicolored good creatures, and that's kind of like the theme of the deck. And then, you know, since I'm running like white, I have like my board wipe package, I have like, you know, my spot removal package and like all that kind of stuff that like I just run because it's me. And so I definitely have that, but so far so good. I actually have a list of about 20 or so cards that I need to buy. Everything else I either have already owned or I've gotten in like trades and stuff like that. So I do need to place an order and order about like 20 cards, and that deck is like good to play. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about the project because, again, I think it's going to be different from something that I haven't already done, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, that's kind of Rain. It was really fun to just sit down and like figure out like what I wanted to do with the deck and like what I wanted it to look like. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Rain. And then the last commander deck that I want to talk about is a big question mark. It's a big maybe. Not 100% sure on this. And that is the possibility of building this new commander that came out in Modern Horizons 2, which is Cythists, if I'm saying that correctly, Harvest's Hand. And there's been a lot of cards like this, where they like have some sort of benefit whenever you play enchantments. And I would say like, I was kind of looking at like, for my next project at building something, and I knew that I didn't want to do like another 4-5 color deck. I wanted to do something that was either like 1 or 2 colors, and I feel like monocolor just doesn't really appeal to me. Like I love angels, don't get me wrong. I just feel like there'd have to be a really great commander for me to, they would have to really speak to me for me to like consider a monocolored deck another one. And I already have angels, so I wouldn't do something mono white. I would do something, you know, something else. And I had mono green in the past. Like I had Yisan and I just took it apart. So I would say Cythists like really attracted me because she's low mana cost, which I really love. Second off, it would be an enchantment themed deck, which I don't really have. I have Alila, which is fairy artifacts and enchantments, but this would be straight up enchantments, and I feel like I'd get to run a lot of really exciting cards with this commander deck and just basically playing a bunch of enchantments that I would just draw cards and gain life. My biggest thing with this deck, though, is I feel like a lot of other people have this type of deck. And I guess my thing is like, what new things am I adding to the table by building this deck? And not that that's like the be all end all factor about like why I decide to build a commander deck, but I would say like when I try to build something, I'm not like looking for a straight up net deck where I'm like, these are like the 70% most popular cards, they're going in my deck. Like, that's not to say that I don't have staples of cards that I run that other people run, like that's not to say that, but I think I was just kind of like, I'm not sure if this is a project that I would feel like I'd be putting a lot of myself into, and I think that's something that I try really hard to do in my commander decks, is building like decks that are me and like add my like little bits of flair. And I don't know if I necessarily have it with this project. So what I might do is I might do kind of like a mock up of the deck and kind of like see the way that goes. I'm not really 100% sure. I think and this is like, I don't know, because after I wrap up Reen, I'm going to really be focusing on refining that and refining Riku, and those are going to kind of be like the top things that I do. And I don't necessarily know if after I do that, if I'm going to like really want to commit to another project. And by that point, there's going to be a bunch of other sets that come out, and there might be something new that catches my eye. So this is totally on the back burner. We're not 100% sure what we're going to do, but it's an option. It's there if I decide to build it. So, yeah, guys, I think that was everything for chatting about EDH updates. Let me know if you guys are in the process of building anything new or anything cool that's come out that you're like, oh, I think that would be super cool to like build a deck on that. I'd really like to hear that in a comment below. If you guys enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye.